Tonight, the two rivals for the Oval Office just miles apart, vying for votes and dollars as they hit the ground running in the Empire State. President Biden bringing out the big guns, wheels down in the Big Apple with his old boss, Barack Obama. The pair to join another member of the Formers Club, Bill Clinton, for a star-studded fundraiser that's happening within the next hour. The Biden campaign banking on a huge and historic money haul. While just miles away, former President Donald Trump makes the trip to Long Island, there for the wake of a New York City police officer killed in the line of duty, paying his respects, then calling for a crackdown on crime. And today, the crack of the bat and the cry of play ball. The boys of summer are back. It's opening day, and we have some inside baseball on why at least one president never threw out the first pitch. Thanks for being with us here on The Hill. I'm Mike Vaquera. I'm filling in for Blake Berman. The Hill on NewsNation starts right now.
12 seconds. 8, 7, 6, 5.
Joining us today, a very big baseball fan, Mick Mulvaney. He's a NewsNation political and economic contributor and former acting chief of staff for the Trump White House. Lee Carter is here. Welcome, Lee. She's a Republican pollster. Chris Hahn is a former senior aide to Senator Chuck Schumer. And Michael Starr Hopkins is a Democratic strategist. I like operative better than strategist. Right? Frankly, it's much more.
I like that word.
There you go. Okay. Hello, everybody.
Operator.
Well, all right. They say the money makes the world go round, and we don't know about that. But we do know this. Money can make or break a presidential campaign. So you are looking live right now at Radio City Music Hall, the famed venue in New York City, where in just about 90 minutes, President Biden will headline a star-studded campaign fundraiser alongside former Presidents Bill Clinton and Barack Obama. Biden and Obama flew together to New York earlier today. The Biden campaign says the event is expected to bring in a record 25 million Dalai Lamas. Okay, this comes as the Biden campaign and the Democratic National Committee are enjoying a major cash advantage over the Trump campaign and the Republican National Committee. Okay, panel, we've got some people who run for office. We've got some people who are operatives. We've got pollsters. This is truly an inside baseball panel.
Yes.
I'm going to start with a very fundamental question. What can money buy in a presidential campaign? $25 million for the president. How important is this money advantage?
I'm going to say getting out the vote is going to be the huge thing.
Yep.
Name ID's already there. People know who both candidates are. Their vote's baked in there. But down the ticket, getting out the vote, making sure that Democrats can retake the House, win the Senate, that's really where the money's at.
I would say when elections are won by 40,000 votes across 4 states, you need an organization on the ground pulling out the votes, even at the presidential level. And when you see the RNC closing out their outreach offices that were actually doing a pretty good job reaching out to Latinos in Florida and other states with large populations of Latinos, that should be worrisome to Republicans across this country because those offices did the job. Biden's going to have the money to offer to put outreach centers out all over this country and swing states.
So we're talking about the ground game, right? That's where this money's going. That's where the difference is going to be.
The ground game, yes, but if you look back to 2016, how much of the money helped Hillary Clinton? It didn't.
But the campaign wasn't a smartly run campaign, if I'm being fair. So they didn't show up.
It's your first campaign, right?
You have to look not just at the numbers, but how many people are making the donations.
Yeah. People didn't know Trump then. That's probably what helped them the most. But
there's
now
a piece. Everything they just said is correct. There is a piece missing to the conversation, though, which is earned media. Donald Trump got $1 billion of free coverage in 2016.
Okay.
Almost that again in 2020. Both of these candidates, at the end of the day, are going to have enough money to do what they want. What Michael said, I think, is the most interesting, which is the down ticket stuff is going to make a difference. And that's where the cash can be the difference between control of the House and the Senate.
So if the former president is, in fact, spending his money on his legal costs, I mean, it's a strange and unconventional campaign, but these are unconventional times, right? He appears in all these court cases when he doesn't have to.
Yeah.
I mean, how much of a drain is that on the Trump campaign?
It works both ways, right? The cash goes to the lawyers, which is bad.
Yeah.
But he has a free press conference every single day, which is good. And it's working for him.
And every time he appears in court, his poll numbers improve.
I think that standing outside the courtroom in a primary maybe works the base up. But I don't think talking about how I just came in here from testifying that I didn't pay off the porn star that I cheated on my wife with after her son was born is going to help him in a general election.
But wait a
Suburban
second.
women outside of Philadelphia.
The election's going to be won on a margin.
But you just
very
said-
small amount of people.
But you just admitted it was a get out the vote race.
Yes.
The key is getting your base to show up, which is what those courthouses
And
are.
now look at some of the other polling here. 78% of Americans believe there's a two-tier system
I'm a
of
swing
justice.
voter in Pennsylvania. This guy's sitting in the courtroom. I don't want to lose a single vote. And I think that some of these cases, I think this case in New York City, it wouldn't be the first case ever, but I think this is a damaging
about
case
hush money and Stormy Dan. I mean, suburban women outside of Philadelphia.
Wait till the other people he paid off start showing up in court as witnesses and come out and start testifying to cameras outside the courtroom. This is not going to be good for Donald Trump.
But that's a different argument. We're talking about the money now. The money, from a money perspective, he's using
Somebody
it the way he's always done it.
Wasn't me.
But I actually think
I think it was me.
I think Democrats are going to run a very interesting playbook. If you remember the 2012 campaign, Barack Obama got access to his funds before Mitt Romney did because of how the way it works with the DNC and the RNC when you get access. I think you're going to see a very similar thing in terms of the DNC now using their funds aggressively early to go out and redefine not just the president, because we know who the president is, but down ticket candidates, and especially with IVF, really tying that around their neck.
Yes and no. There's a difference between the way the RNC and DNC work a little bit, but that in 2012 had more to do when they were the presumptive nominee. Obama had no primary challengers in 2012, so he was able to move.
But Romney couldn't.
was.
Romney couldn't use access to his funds
because he wasn't the presumptive nominee until much later.
But we're not talking about the big
Now we're really getting in there, right?
and Obama.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
Yeah.
$25 million is a lot of money in one night.
I saw that coming off the
I
airplane.
might have to say, though, it's going to be a stark contrast tonight when you look at Bill Clinton, Obama, and Biden together, and who's going to seem like the star. I think it's going to actually raise more concern.
You might be surprised by this. I got more than a few emails about this event.
Yeah, so did I.
People worried that Biden was going to be outshone?
I know. I'm not worried. I don't care. Money, $25 million is going to be spent all about talking about Joe Biden. These guys are going to be big stars saying, Obama to me, Clinton. I got into politics. I became a Democrat because of Bill Clinton. Right?
Okay.
So, but $25 million buys you a lot of prominence down there.
All right. Okay, we got to move on here. Meanwhile, former President Trump was also in the New York City area today. He attended the wake of a New York City police officer gunned down in the line of duty.
We have to stop it. We have to stop it. We have to get back to law and order. We have to do a lot of things differently because this is not working. This is happening too often. It's an honor to be here.
Okay, so this comes as the former president is making crime a focus of his campaign, as are Republicans up and down the ballot. He accuses President Biden, of course, of being soft on crime. However, the most recent crime FBI stats show cities with populations greater than 1 million seeing an 11% drop in crime. So, is this still a winning issue? I feel like crime and the economy are two things that have lagging indicators. There's a perception out there, and it's not just Republicans, that crime is a major problem. And will it still be a major problem? Will it still be a voting issue in November?
So I think crime is it's an interesting issue for Republicans. He's a terrible messenger for this issue, though, because every time you bring up crime and he's the one talking about it, it goes back to talk about his cases, which I think with independents who want to believe that crime is an issue, who want to lean towards him.
Street crime, not feeling safe, your average citizen on the street, and what President Trump is going through.
There is, and I think you can even talk about, I think Democrats in D.C. will talk about issues of feeling safe walking their dog. My wife and I talk about this all the time. But in the broad sense of crime, I think there's going to be a question of whether they want Donald Trump to be the representative to talk about dealing with crime.
That says that people think that he's going to be tougher on crime. And
Republicans always win that.
Yeah, I was going to say.
That's really important. And the other thing about something that he did like this today, I think it was really, really powerful that he did this because 85% of voters, Republican voters, say that they feel like Donald Trump cares about people like them. And when he goes out and does things like this, it makes it seem like they care, that he really, truly cares about these issues. Now, if you don't like him, you don't see it that way. But
but where was he when cops were being attacked on January 6th?
On a day by this is a win for him today. Right?
Yes.
It's a genius move to do this particular event.
And the contrast.
That's exactly right. Now, Biden will do it to him. There'll be a big Trump fundraiser someplace, and Biden will do something. But
all right, I'm going to get to
Look, if it wasn't March,
All right.
I might care.
Normally I would. Normally I'd reach out to polls. Normally I'd bring up a poll when the conversation lags, but this conversation's not lagging. But I'm still, out of force of habit, going to bring up a poll. The poll is: who would you vote for?
Is that when you bring up polls? Is that what you're doing to us?
I didn't realize that.
Wow. Thank you for that insight.
Who would you vote for today? Vote for if the election was today, or should it be were today? I don't know. Biden, 48%. Donald Trump, 45%. And you can read it for yourself, and then you had Kennedy. Thank you very much, Mick. And you had Kennedy, and it looks like President Trump surges
Dead
into
heats no matter what.
All right. So the significance of these polls.
So I will say the 48% number is interesting because we're seeing President Biden's numbers get closer to that 50% margin, which I think should really terrify Republicans. I think this idea of the 13% number for RFK, those numbers,
they're all over the map.
They're all over the map. Yeah. But not only that, I don't hear Democrats who would vote for Biden in any other term saying that they would now go vote for RFK Jr. because of something that happened.
All right. One more poll. Here we go.
Another one.
Decision Desk HQ. Okay. Thank you for the glasses, Mick. I think I can handle it.
All right,
from
I'm
here.
just checking.
Battleground polls. We're talking. That was a national poll. Let's forget about national polls. Let's talk about battleground polls. Georgia, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin. Still pretty tight. Although, what is Georgia doing? Give me those glasses. Trump is a significant lead.
Yeah.
And
so, that's the point.
You're the pollster. Tell me why I should care about a national poll.
You shouldn't. Actually, I think it shows momentum. It shows what's happening at a point of time. Really, what matters is these states that matter.
Would you call it a lagging indicator?
I would call it a lagging
indicator. I would call it a lagging indicator, too.
But I would also say, though, these polls are really significant. You look at the numbers he has in Georgia, Arizona, Nevada, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin. Trump is winning in all of those states in the polls, and he has for the last 6 months.
What was
that
the date?
is significant
I said
and
October
important.
5th. That's when the bottom will drop out for Donald Trump. Write it down so that we all remember.
All right, I'm going to be calling you,
5th.
and I'll be calling you on October 6th, and I'll get dinner.
It's
honor about.
NewsNation is here. All right, we're moving on. Kennedy, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., for his part, is defending choosing entrepreneur and attorney Nicole Shanahan as his vice presidential pick. He appeared last night on Cuomo in his first appearance since the VP announcement this week.
I'm guessing she probably has a higher IQ than almost anybody who I've seen in public life today. She's an expert on AI, which we need in the government right now. She's an expert on chronic disease, which is probably arguably our biggest issue in this country.
All right, so one issue we talked about when I was last here on Tuesday was ballot access. He was playing footsie with the Libertarians. The Libertarians are very cold on his, as we heard directly from the Libertarian Party chair, on his party choice. But who does it hurt more is the question that we're going to be chewing over for a while now, assuming that RFK Jr. gets on the ballot. The Hill memo says RFK Jr. set to hurt Biden more than Trump, but it's complicated. Isn't it always?
He forgot to say the best reason for her is that she's a billionaire that could fund his campaign. That would be the only reason that she matters, right? It's the only reason he picked her, and it's actually a good reason to pick her. That's right. To be honest with you.
It's not just the money.
It is just the money.
What else could it
Does anyone in America know who she is? Why he picked her other than...
I would have forgotten her name.
By the way,
it wasn't up on the screen.
I'm a crass political operative. That's exactly why I'd pick her if I was RFK Jr. It's the money.
It's also that she's an outsider. It's also that she has
She's an outsider with lots of money.
Fair.
All right.
He could have picked me. I'm an outsider, sure. He could have picked me. I never would have run with him. Just like his family wouldn't pick him.
Here we are in the seat of the swamp, in the belly of the beast. She's unconventional. Yes. We've never heard of her.
Rich.
We're living in a
Wow, she reminds me
We're
of.
living in a Joe Rogan.
How'd that work out last time?
There was a woman from Alaska. She was an outsider. How did she?
She could see Russia from her backyard.
She was not nearly
write this down too. He gets no more than 2.5%.
I think the
No, I disagree.
On October 5th.
Here's, I think, the only thing that matters, and you go back to the poll we had up a little bit about before and after, or with or without Kennedy in the race. It looks like in the early polling, he's polling roughly the same from both sides.
Yep, right.
And that's
100%.
That's all that really matters. If it's 4% is enough to change the outcome of the election.
Sure is.
One side.
Well,
15% could also be. If it's 15, it's 7.5. It's not going to make a difference. It's the distribution that matters, not the total.
Yeah. Jill Stein, Ralph Nader. Okay, coming up. From red to blue, an Alabama Democrat flips a state house seat running on abortion rights and IVF access. Is this issue still a difference maker for Democrats? We'll get views from both parties Plus, classified information controversy. Should Donald Trump and Democratic New Jersey Senator Bob Menendez still have access to the country's top secrets? A change may be coming. And play ball. It's opening day for Major League Baseball. Our friend Mick Mulvaney, sitting right next to me, will reveal why he talked Donald Trump out of throwing a first pitch. Stay with us. You're watching The Hill on NewsNation. In Alabama, Democratic candidate Marilyn Lands, a licensed mental health counselor, won the state's special election after campaigning on abortion rights.
It's very exciting. I'm looking forward to getting down to Montgomery and getting to work. My first priority is to repeal our no exceptions abortion ban.
Her victory comes as questions swirl about whether IVF and abortion access will still be a factor in November after being a factor in the last midterms and subsequent special elections. So let's hear from both sides. Tiffany Smiley is a Republican who ran for Senate in Washington state. But first, let's go to Doug Jones. He is a former Democratic senator from Alabama. Senator Jones, thanks very much for joining us here on the Hill and NewsNation. First of all, let me just ask you, Alabama actually, improbably, over the course of the last couple of months, has become ground zero in this debate over abortion rights and IVF access. Was this responsible, this issue responsible for this win in the State House election?
Well, yeah, I think it was a major factor. I don't think it was the only factor, but I think it was a major factor. If you look at the issue that Marilyn Lands ran on, this was the one she went straight after. And Alabama has been on the front lines. It has not been good, the publicity that's been having around here. And our state legislators who passed all that legislation are responding by saying, gosh, we didn't see this coming. We didn't understand this. Well, that's, I think, the issue that's going to be across the country, but certainly in Alabama and elsewhere, of all of these bans, all these restrictions that people are just not thinking through in the long term.
Yeah, I'm told that the turnout was relative. I mean, this was a state house election. I guess it was a special election in an unusual time. 6,000 people turned out to vote in this state house election up near Huntsville, Alabama, which I gather also has a changing demographic. So how much of this is really a bellwether for what's happening across the state and the country?
Well, look, I think the issue is the bellwether. It's not this one election that's a bellwether. You're right. It was a low turnout. It was a special election. Anything can happen. The interesting thing is that we are in a very gerrymandered state. Most districts are gerrymandered for Republicans. Some are gerrymandered for Democrats. It's it's ridiculous how gerrymandered this state is. This particular district is one of the few swings. So if you look at swing districts around the country, this can be an important issue. And I think that's the key for every state, but particularly in a state like Alabama and elsewhere when you've got such restrictive laws.
What does it say that in a state like Alabama that reacted so decisively, run by conservatives, obviously, so decisively after that court ruling to essentially overturn what the court was trying to do when it came to IVF? What does that say about the IVF issue across the political spectrum?
Mike, it means they still don't know what the hell they're doing. They didn't act decisively. They put a Band-Aid on this. They can't give people immunity for a constitutional right that they previously gave. This was just a quick fix because every Republican in the state legislature had their hair on fire seeing the reaction, the negative reaction to this ruling. And as I said, they didn't know what to do. They did not anticipate this. This is not over, and it's certainly not going to be over in the rest of the country. You look at Project 2025 that the Heritage Foundation is doing. You look at some of the bills that are in Congress. They're going after IVF. They're going after contraception. This battle is just now beginning in Alabama. Like so many things that's on the wrong side of history, we're on the front lines.
All right, Senator Doug Jones, we thank you very much for joining us this afternoon on the Hill of NewsNation. Okay, now to Tiffany Smiley. She is a former Republican Senate candidate in Washington state. Tiffany, thank you. What do you make of the issue? It obviously has legs for Democrats. I mean, I think that's indisputable by any objective standard.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, look, I'm a mom of 3 growing, amazing boys who I'm thankful for every single day. And we need to make it easier, not harder, for mothers and fathers to bring lives into this world. That means supporting the availability of fertility treatments. And we have, you know, Republicans have been strong on this from the very beginning. You know, look, I think it's insulting that the Democrats try to use fear and kind of sort of paint women as one-issue voters. We are so much more than that. In fact, I'm out in Washington State with an amazing candidate. We have great candidates running across the country, but I'm with Leslie Llewellyn, who is running in Washington's 3rd Congressional District, and she's talking directly to women every single day and addressing the issues that they are worried about. They're worried about raising their children in a country where their children will not be safe, or an economy where they don't have a shot at the American dream. So look, I think, you know, there's really no hope in the Democrats' messaging, only shifting because they have terrible policies. So if this is the only thing they have to run on, then Republicans will be winning this cycle.
Well, I mean, the track record thus far since Dobbs has been in the Democrats' favor. I don't think you can argue with that. And the Republicans do seem to be in contradiction to one another when it comes to where they stand on the issue. 15 weeks versus 16 weeks versus banning IVF altogether.
You're not going to ban IVF. That's a fear tactic that obviously, again, the Dems are trying to use. Because they can't stand on their own 2 feet on the issues that are affecting the American people. I mean, at the end of the day, I think we need to realize that, you know, it gave the power back to the states. So, you know, as women, we don't want politicians deciding, you know, what the conversations between our doctors. And I think we need to be clear that there are many Democrats who are the extreme on the abortion issue. And they believe partial birth abortion, like all the way up to the point of birth, and that is extreme.
Yeah, Tiffany, the one thing you mentioned that you said they want to leave it to the states, and yet there are proposals here in Washington for a 15-week national ban. Do you think that's the right way to go?
Hey, look, I think we need to come together and talk about it. At the end of the day, like I said, politicians shouldn't be deciding women's health and women's access to care. I think how we support women, and this is why, you know, I think Republican women understand that we are not one-issue voters, is that we will fight as conservatives, as Republicans, and this is exactly what Leslie Llewellyn's doing in Washington's 3rd Congressional District, to ensure that women have access to health care, that they have, support, and that they know that should they choose to keep their child, that it's not a ticket to poverty or a lack of education, that they have every resource that they need in this country to live the best life and provide the best life for their children.
Okay, Tiffany Smiley, thank you very much for joining us here at the Hill of NewsNation. We appreciate it very much. Okay, panel. Mike, we'll start with you. You look like you're ready to jump out of your chair.
That argument may work in a primary, but it's not going to work in a general election. Her argument was that politicians shouldn't decide what to do with women's bodies while politicians are deciding what to do with women's bodies, that it should be states' rights, which means it's going to go back to politicians in the states voting for it. This is an issue where women feel strongly about. We've seen since the Dobbs decision, from the midterms all the way through, that Democrats are winning on this.
It is a problem that Republicans have got, because for 50 years we made the case that Roe was wrongly decided because it should not be a federal issue. And we won on that. That's what Dobbs said, right? And now we're sitting there, a lot of us, not all of us, are saying now it needs to be a federal issue again. And that there's an internal inconsistency with that we have to deal with.
Kind of hard for her to say Republicans are not going to ban IVF. When they did, they banned IVF.
They did not. That was a judge's ruling, right? Quickly.
Symbolically, I think it's a really big problem for the Republicans. When you look, I have polling that suggests that 7 in 10 independent women and 9 in 10 Democratic women are going to go out and vote solely on this issue. It's about family freedom. It's about women's rights. It's not just about abortion.
Because when that ruling went down, how many people raised their hand and said, we had IVF, or I have friends that had IVF? I mean, it's a very,
a lot of people,
I did.
Everybody. And more than 80% of conservative Christians actually agree with IVF.
I want to add something really quick, since we were talking about RFK, and then we can't talk about it because we're out of time. The running mate, Nicole Shanahan, has a history of denouncing IVF, calling it one of the biggest lies that's being told about women's health today. So that could be...
Good thing she's rich.
An issue.
All right. Good luck winning Democrats.
There's still much more ahead on the Hill. Law and disorder. A Harvard-educated lawyer can become the first Muslim American to serve as U.S. Appeals Court judge. But Republicans are not on board. Even some Democrats are saying no. We'll discuss that controversy. And bye-bye Bidenomics. President Biden seems to be dropping his economic slogan. Is that the right move? We'll talk about that when The Hill returns.
Antenna TV presents the Sunday Special. Watch back-to-back episodes of your favorite classic television sitcoms.
Yeah, it's gonna be a real barn burner.
This month, Alice.
That's fantastic.
Order up the Sunday Special at Mel's Diner as Alice serves an extra helping of laughs. April 14th from 7 to 7. The Sunday Special. Go to antennatv.tv to check your local listings.
Did you know the National Institutes of Health is working to improve kidney care? Hi, I'm Dr. Griffin Rogers, Director of the National Institute of Diabetes, Digestive, and Kidney Diseases at NIH. We support studies that investigate the social, environmental, molecular, and genetic causes of kidney disease. For example, the Chronic Kidney Disease in Children study looks at risk factors for the progression of chronic kidney disease. It also studies how kidney disease impacts the development of heart disease, brain function, and growth in children. By better understanding how kidney disease works and the impacts it has on different individuals, we can develop tailored treatments that may improve health outcomes. If you're interested in learning more about ongoing clinical trials or becoming a participant, visit clinicaltrials.gov and search for kidney disease. For more, follow us at NIDDK.gov. This is Dr. Griffin Rogers with the NIH.
Visa and MasterCard have agreed to a settlement with merchants that have been suing them for nearly 2 decades over the fees they charge for swiping credit cards. In the deal, the credit card networks and banks will lower the fees that merchants pay to accept credit cards. iPhone thefts have been a growing problem in recent years, but Apple may have found a way to stop them. A new security feature in iOS 17.3 is designed to make it harder for someone to use your iPhone if it's lost or stolen, and when turned on, requires your Face ID or Touch ID for certain actions. McDonald's will begin selling Krispy Kreme donuts nationwide by the end of 2026. 3 flavors of Krispy Kreme donuts will be delivered to McDonald's restaurants daily as part of the expanded partnership that began testing in the U.S. last year. I'm Mark Huffman. Learn more at consumeraffairs.com.
You're listening to The Hill on NewsNation. To find NewsNation on your screen, go to joinnn.com.
No man stands so tall as when he stoops to help a child. That's the motto of the Shriners, and it's true. Dr. Gary Probst here with a thought about being a humble leader in just a moment.
David was in big trouble with the IRS.
At first, I didn't owe that much, but after this year, it was out of control.
Then David called Get a Tax Lawyer.
Right away, they were like, oh yeah, looks like you're qualified to save.
Get a Tax Lawyer went to work.
Should have called way sooner.
Get a Tax Lawyer has helped thousands like David fight the IRS and get a fresh start.
Call 800-783-0798. That's 800-783-0798.
If you are trying to go up a ladder and I put my shoulder in your backside and lift you up, what direction am I going? Servant leadership is the concept of raising others as you raise yourself. Envy, jealousy, other negative emotions just hold you down. If serving is below you, then leadership is beyond you. The famous writer Ralph Waldo Emerson said that one of the most beautiful compensations of life is that nobody can try and help another without helping themselves. Serve, and thou shalt be served. What happens when you encourage and elevate your children compared to yelling at them? The business trainer Brian Tracy believes that reward is in direct proportion to the value of our service to others. Lead through service and excel. Your legacy is in who you serve and how.
Welcome back to The Hill. What do Donald Trump and Democratic New Jersey Senator Bob Menendez have in common? Well, they both have been indicted on federal charges. A new bill about to drop in Congress would prevent Trump and Menendez from receiving classified information because of the charges facing them. The bill says classified information can't be shared with any officials who are charged with obstructing an official proceeding, unlawfully retaining national defense information, or acting as a foreign agent. All right. Is this real?
No.
No?
No.
But it sounds good.
It sounds great. It's grandstanding.
Incidentally, this is a Democratic member of Congress from New Jersey, Menendez's home state.
And I appreciate the fact that it's balanced. It would cut against both Republicans.
It seems reasonable,
It really
right?
does. You're innocent until proven guilty.
Innocent until proven guilty.
What are we doing here? This is nothing but political grandstanding.
Sure. I mean, like, the lawyer in me and the lawyer in you wants to say, yeah, like, innocent until proven guilty. But Menendez, Trump, like, we know that they're guilty of this. And so it becomes this other thing where we go,
you had me
that's a lot. We know, like, gold bars and top secret information in your bathroom.
I know there's a lot of attorneys on this. I, too, am an attorney. And I do believe you're innocent till proven guilty. But I also believe you do not have a right to have classified material.
Yes, you do. As an elected official, as an elected member of Congress, or a president of the United States, even a nominee, you have the right. In fact, President Trump will start getting his briefings, as every nominee has from time immemorial. Yes, you do have a right. Whether it's a constitutional right, I don't know.
I don't know why the presidential nominees need to
because he needs to be able to stay abreast of what's going on in the lead up to the election.
At a certain point, he'll get intelligence briefings, right? So it was a Democratic member of Congress. Seems tailored towards President Trump, but Menendez would.
Well, no, I think it might be tailored towards Menendez as well. I mean, people in New Jersey are not very happy with Bob Menendez. They want him out. He's not even running in the Democratic primary.
I mean, I think that's one of those things that really does sound good, but doesn't mean anything. At the end of the day, really is like I do think that we have to.
But great job, member of Congress, because we're all talking about it.
And no one's defending either one of them.
Exactly.
All right, we're going to jump in here. I'm going to wrap you, and we're going to move on. Meanwhile, President Biden's nominee for the Third Circuit U.S. Court of Appeals, Adil Mungi, is facing trouble in the Senate from Biden's own party. 3 Democrats now are opposed to Mungi's nomination, citing concerns from police organizations and his affiliation to a group with purported ties to a convicted murderer. If confirmed, Mungi would be the first Muslim Court of Appeals judge. Panel, he's not going to get much support there. So it's 3 senators, Democratic senators.
2 Democratic senators.
All right, I'm going to read the names, and you give me your line on Manchin. Jackie Rosen of Nevada. Catherine Cortez Masto of Nevada. And Joe Manchin.
Independent, never really been a Democrat.
Well,
it's better than what we would have gotten.
True, but the bar is very low.
Right.
You guys keep going, because we got nothing to do with this, right? I love the fact that Democrats are attacking the Republicans here for attacking this guy because of his Muslim faith and so forth. But it's the Democrats the votes that he's losing. So you guys can.
Well, I mean, we know the way Congress.
I will forever have my issues with Joe Manchin, but on this case, I mean, this specifically, I think the fact that so much has been made about him being a Muslim is indicative of what's wrong with the country. I mean, we know that this guy is qualified. He's done public service. He's done the things that we would want. But the fact that he's not blonde hair and blue-eyed is the only reason that he's being held back. Let's be honest. Come on.
No, it's not. It actually is not. We've seen this with this is political grandstanding, and we see it over and over again. But now the Democrats are hurting themselves.
So
but they're going to make this into a DEI
White House reaction. Mick, you're next. Jeff Zients, the White House Chief of Staff. Some Senate Republicans and their extreme allies are relentlessly sleering Adil Mungi with baseless accusations that he's anti-police. That could not be further from the truth. And close to a dozen law enforcement organizations have endorsed him. They agree.
But so when the Democrat, you say that this is because of the person's color.
I'm not saying this is because of, but I'm saying that if he was blonde hair and blue-eyed, that this would the crouching of him being Muslim, that him being affiliated with murderers, there's a nefarious element that's tied to him around his brownness.
So attacking Amy Coney Barrett and Brett Kavanaugh and Neil Gorsuch for being devout Catholics was what? They're white. They're blue-eyed. What was that all?
Well, I don't think they were being attacked over being devout Catholics. They're being attacked over being anti-abortion.
They were identified as being devout Catholics. It was every you could not mention the name without saying devout Catholic Amy Coney Barrett.
I mean, I think if Kavanaugh had been a better Catholic in his youth, they probably wouldn't have attacked him.
All right, what is he more specific? At the Washington Post, he's accused of sharing anti-Semitic views espoused by panelists who spoke at events hosted by Rutgers Law School's Center for Security, Race, and Rights. He served as a member of that center's advisory board. So that's what they're hanging this. I mean, I think that's an election year, and anything like this is going to be toxic, right?
If he's not a blonde-haired, blue-eyed person sitting on that committee, I think he's got the same problem in this environment.
I don't. I think that the anti-Semitic comments are tied around. I mean, it has to do with him being Muslim. I don't think it has to do with the actual context of what he didn't say. It was something that someone else said.
That's correct.
All right. Tomorrow marks a somber anniversary for Wall Street Journal reporter Evan Gershkovich to commemorate the first anniversary of his detention in Russia, where he's being held on charges of espionage. The Wall Street Journal held a 24-hour readathon today where they read some of his past articles. All this comes as Gershkovich was in Russian court on Tuesday, where his detention was extended for 3 months. Okay, we're going to do our Rorschach test here. Look at this picture. Here he is in court. Let's start with you, Michael. What do you see when you look at this picture?
Not democracy, a country that we are nothing like, and we need to do everything to be a beacon to support the people there.
All right, Mr. Hahn?
He seriously has lost weight since the last time we've seen him, and that's disturbing.
It's worrisome.
Yeah. And again, I agree with everything you just said. This is a country that is nothing like us, and we should not admire it all.
Right. He writes about oligarchs and exposes the doings and nefarious doings of oligarchs. And next thing you know, he's in jail. Lee?
I see a man, and thank God he's there, right? I mean, there's so much concern about him, but
at least he's still alive.
At least
right.
he's still
No
alive. I don't mean thank God he's there where he is.
Right,
I mean, thank God he's alive. Thank God he's okay. Yes, he looks like he's lost a lot of weight. And yes, it does look like this isn't a democracy. And yes, it looks like all the things that are wrong. But thank God he's alive.
Hostages overseas is a really difficult situation for any White House. We dealt with it. I do not envy the Biden team having to deal with this. But you mentioned race in the last issue. Let me ask you this. Why is Brittany Griner gone and he is still there? Is there a difference? Does race play a role in the efforts that the Biden team undertook to get her out? That they're not. Why is he still there and she?
I think this has more to do with Putin and journalists and his reluctancy to release.
It's not apples to apples.
I think it's a question of what we're willing to give in return for getting him back.
I think the country would be willing to give anything in return. We'll see what Russia is willing to.
We'll see if Biden will take it.
Yeah.
Okay, coming up, it's opening day. There's a long history between baseball and the White House. Did you know Donald Trump almost threw out the first pitch at an All-Star game? And guess who talked him out of it? Hint, hint, he's sitting here on our panel. Our Mick Mulvaney, we just gave it away. We'll find out why he gave him this advice after the break.
Yeah. Can you go to me right after he says?
Piece in the New York Times. Look at the prompter. Did you see this piece in the New York Times today? It has been almost 3 weeks since Nikki Haley dropped out of the presidential race. But the Times reports former President Donald Trump has yet to reach out to her or her voters. And as a reminder, she received a total of 3.8 million votes over 34 states. So, Mick, it seems like the former president is leaving votes on the table, and what we all agree is going to be a tight election. What's the deal?
Yeah, well, I'm not sure they're her voters. They're just not his voters yet. So it doesn't surprise me that he hasn't reached out to her. But it does surprise me a little bit he hasn't reached out to the voters. But keep in mind, once you get out of the primary and into a general election, it becomes us versus them.
Right, so they come home? Is that what you're saying?
I think that's really what this is all about.
Okay, so let's turn to Trump's opponent in the 2024 race, President Biden, appearing to have recently made a change to his Bidenomics messaging strategy. So take a look at this chart. Biden has stopped touting his signature Bidenomics messaging. He went from mentioning it almost 30 times last June to just once over the past 2 months, including last Tuesday, the campaign swing in North Carolina. It comes as stock markets, there is good news, hit fresh records today. And data continues to signal healthy growth in the economy. So what's going on here, Mick? Bidenomics.
Can you see Hans' face?
Yeah, he's grimacing. He's gritting his teeth.
Bidenomics has 4 syllables in it, and it's too hard.
Is that really? I mean, is that what this all boils down to?
It's become a brand that equates to inflation, difficult times. They came out with it at the wrong time. It's a bad brand, and they're smart to move on.
I'm going to use the term that Chris Hahn likes so much: lagging indicator. I mean, the economy grew.
Pundit word, you know that.
The economy grew. The final stats are in 3.4%.
We've talked about that word. We've talked about this before. I don't think the economy is the driving issue. I really think it's immigration.
Unemployment's down.
I think it's immigration at this point.
So that's not an economic issue.
It's not, but I think people are saying they don't like the economy because they really don't like immigration. That, or the federal reports exclude energy and food, which is what most people focus their attention on.
Right. So the 3 principles of political messaging, you guys correct me if I'm wrong, are repetition, and repetition.
You got it.
So thanks.
Yes.
And deny.
Lee, do you think he's making a mistake by not reaching out to Haley voters?
I don't, actually.
They're not persuadable to come?
I'm not sure that they're not persuadable, but I think right now he's rallying his base, and that's what he does really, really well. And I think that I agree with you.
No, it is not enough.
He's got
He needs every single
They're coming home.
Haley voter. 20% of people still voting in primaries in Republican are not voting for Trump.
And 100,000 people voted voted uncommitted in Michigan.
I do not believe that all of those voters will not come out and vote for Trump. But if 1 or 2% of them don't, it's over.
70% of people that vote for Joe Biden are voting against somebody. People that vote for Donald Trump are voting for Donald Trump.
They're going to be voting against Donald Trump again.
The only
October
election,
5th.
only election that Donald Trump has ever won has been the result of Democrats not turning out because they were overconfident that Hillary Clinton was going to win.
And now this time he might have a problem because he's got the lowest approval rating. I mean, Joe Biden has a real problem.
Chris Starwell had a stat last night about who do you fear?
Never heard of him.
Who do you fear? Right? And Democrats fear Trump. Republicans don't fear Biden the same way Democrats.
We're talking about the economy. No one has mentioned that the rent is too darn high, right? I mean, so interest rates, 7%, right? You can't sell your house. You can't buy a house. You're not going to sell your house if you're paying a 3% on your mortgage to buy a house at 7% rate, right?
That's Bidenomics. It's a bad brand. They're smart to move off of it.
Rates go up.
And people
rates
don't
come
feel
down.
better
We'll see
right
when
now.
they finally do come down. Okay, Mick, today is Major League Baseball's opening day.
You've been waiting for this one all day, haven't you?
And you wanted to take this opportunity to tell a story about former President Trump and how you, Mick Mulvaney, talked him out of throwing a first pitch.
Because you were worried about his hands.
No.
Okay.
It was long before I was chief of staff. It was the summer of 2018, and the All-Star game was coming to Washington, D.C., and I was in the office with a bunch of people at the right time, and Trump says, I'd like to throw out the first pitch. And I just blurt out, what if you bounce it? And he says, no, I can still throw. And we had a long conversation about could he actually throw the pitch for a strike? Because you can't do, you can't do one of these.
And Baba Booey it. You cannot Baba Booey it.
And he's still a good athlete, especially at his age. He's very active. And we decided, he says, no, I think I can do it.
People are saying he's an excellent golfer.
I think I can do it. I think I can do it. And then I said,
the greatest
Mr. President, do you think you could do it in a flak check? And he said, ooh, no. And he's right. People don't realize when you go on to do that as the President of the United States, the amount of armor you are wearing is really,
right.
Yeah. It's not
heavy.
You're
out there in front of 40,000 people, right?
Wearing a flak jacket that they all, there's a reason you look like this. And there's a reason that Obama threw it like this, because it's really hard to throw. And I think it was the right decision.
All right, back in the good old days, the presidents would just stand up in the presidential box by the dugout.
That's exactly
and
walk.
Are you going to make a William Howard Taft reference here?
That's the one I always think of, the picture of Taft, but Taft couldn't really run out onto the field. They would have to delay the game.
They could roll him out of it.
Speaking of the history of presidents in baseball, there's long been a connection between the White House.
There he is.
There he is. And Major League Baseball. Ever since William Howard Taft threw out the first pitch in 1910. Since then, every president has done it except for Trump and Biden. So, is the tradition dead?
No.
Is it a security thing?
Now,
as
listen,
Mick was saying.
I watched the video today to get ready for this of Barack Obama, who was extraordinarily popular at the time, got booed on the field. You're always going to get
every politician.
But someone's going to own it. Someone's going to own getting booed, and it's going to make them into a charismatic, fun figure. I could see a Gavin Newsom, someone like that, who goes into a red state and goes into going the first pitch and enjoying being booed, and it becoming a moment.
They all get booed. Every politician, the most popular. If Jesus Christ was the governor of California and he walked out onto the field, he'd get booed.
I hate the loss of some of these traditions, though. I also hate the fact that Joe Biden didn't do his interview on the Super Bowl. I think there's a lot of good traditions that happen.
Your personal privilege here.
Yes.
As a young man, I am from Washington, in the Washington area, right? I was an Orioles fan for 30 years when we didn't have a team. But I would like to point out that the world champion Texas Rangers are really the Washington Senators. Because they left town in 1971.
You and me both,
My dad used to take me to RFK, used to be known as DC Stadium, to see the Senators. I saved this program, and there is Ricky Dick Nixon, our number one fan.
All right, so here's your baseball trivia question for opening day. That is the second incarnation of the Washington Senators. They had already lost a team.
Right, and they lost to the Minnesota Twins, right? The pain still resonates. And look at the bottom right of that. How much did that program cost?
Was it
50 cents.
Was it 50 cents?
Yeah.
I just want to say, I'm stunned they put a politician on the cover.
How do you like that? They left it. They left it 1971 after the final season.
It's just nice to know I have another Washingtonian.
There we go. Panel, thank you very much. Coming up.
Thank you.
Protecting students from crime on campus. There are safety concerns at UC Berkeley. Some parents are taking matters into their own hands. I'll discuss with Leland Vittert, host of On Balance, next.
Chris has been one of the first people to actually let me on and have a conversation.
And you have a platform here to make the case.
CNN has an agenda. MSNBC has an agenda. NewsNation plays it pretty much straight up and down the line.
To reach adulthood. That's why vaccines matter so much. For 40 years, Rotary and partners have delivered vaccines globally. Like here and even here, in your neighborhood and around the world, Rotary is ensuring children grow up safe from preventable diseases.
We're with Bridget, whose husband won't be home for months, and whose daughter is due any day. We're with Mike, who's leaving home to protect his family and yours. We're with all service members and their families who need community, connection, and maybe a bit of magic. Are you with them? Learn more at uso.org today.
Today alone, 5,370 people in the United States will be diagnosed with cancer. That's why Stand Up to Cancer funds and develops the newest and most promising cancer treatments. Stand Up to Cancer wants to provide you with every opportunity to join in this mission. By donating your home, land, or commercial property, you can help Stand Up to Cancer fund innovative cancer research. Stand Up to Cancer makes the process easy, and it may be tax deductible. Visit standuptocancer.org/giveproperty to learn more.
Thanks for listening to NewsNation on the Go. I'm Hannah Doba, and this is America's source for engaging and unbiased news.
Snakes, zombies, sharks, heights, speaking in public. The list of fears is endless. But while you're clutching your blanket in the dark, wondering if that sound in the hall was actually a footstep, the real danger is in your hand, when you're behind the wheel. And while you might think a great white shark is scary, what's really terrifying and even deadly is distracted driving. Eyes forward. Don't drive distracted. Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
The IRS is urging people to beware of ads that promise big money by claiming the Employee Retention Tax Credit. This is a real tax credit that helps businesses that were affected by the pandemic, but scammers are telling people they qualify when they don't. The scammer takes a fee and your personal information. If you're not eligible for the credit, getting conned by this could cost you a lot. The IRS doesn't want that to happen to you, so check the official information at irs.gov/ERC.
Smokey the Bear. Then you know why Smokey tells you when he sees you passing through. Remember, please be careful, it's the least that you can do. What you desire, don't play with matches, don't play with fire.
After 80 years of learning his wildfire prevention tips, Smokey Bear lives within us all. Learn more at SmokeyBear.com. And remember,
only you can prevent wildfires.
Brought to you by the USDA Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council.
Retirement can be scary, but only if you're not prepared. That's why AARP created thisispretirement.org. Because unless you've already retired, you're in pretirement, and you still have time to plan. Learn about retirement savings options, potential tax breaks, and how you can build savings over time. Visit thisispretirement.org for free resources to help you customize your action plan and feel the retirement fear disappear. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Welcome back. Some UC Berkeley parents are hiring private security workers to patrol the campus as a way to keep their kids safe. This comes as robberies were up 22% last year in the city of Berkeley. Now parents are taking the law into their own hands. A pilot program called Safe Bears allowed guards hired by the parents to patrol the Berkeley campus. But the university is not happy with the effort, saying it raises concerns about the training of these outside security firms. Okay, the host of On Balance, Leland Vittert, joins me now to discuss, Leland, another sign of crime concerns in an unlikely place.
Well, or a place that was the hotbed of activity for defund the police. You have to wonder if some of these security guards are accompanying the kids to the protests that they're at. It goes back to this issue of how Americans are feeling ill at ease, right, and unsafe. And there's going to be some questions, some tough questions going forward, both on college campuses and in various places around the country about how much lawlessness people are willing to except, and especially at a place like UC Berkeley that is steeped in liberalism and progressivism,
right,
how long they'll deal with this.
I mean, Berkeley, of all places. And it comes after, right here in the District of Columbia, the city council reversed a lot of crimes and liberalized sentencing policies. Same in San Francisco, neighboring San Francisco across the bay, we're seeing the same movement, the same political movement. People are not feeling safe. You can show the statistics or recite the statistics that violent crime is down in most cities, not here in the District of Columbia. But the proof is in how people feel personally and how they are reacting.
So to that point, if you ask the question differently rather than what exactly are the crime numbers, you say